a special guest today. Her name is Abby Segal, and she's a magician. And I've seen her work, and it's incredible what she can do. She's a magician at junior at Bates College, and she has been performing magic for the past 9 years. Special occasions, schools, nursing homes, summer camps, and business events. And last time you saw her, she was on TV, Penn and Teller Fool Us. I saw that episode too. And she's also incorporated her psychology major in film studies as well. So we're going to talk to her about that and try to. So here she is, Abby Segal. Hello.
Hi, Chris. Thank
How
you
are
for
you?
having me.
You're welcome. So glad you're here. So you want to give us a little
Good.
bit of, for one thing, whereabouts are you
Yeah,
right
it's
now?
good to be
You
here.
just mentioned you were in the Czech Republic. So
Mm,
whereabouts are you? Give us a little bit of a background of who you are so people can know who the great Abby Segal is.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I am currently studying abroad in Prague in the Czech Republic until May, the beginning of May, and I go to school in Maine. And I've been doing magic for a little over 10 years now. And like you said, I used to perform locally and then um, for schools and nursing homes. And yeah, and that's pretty much how I got started.
Well, that's awesome. So how old were you when you first started your first trick? What was your first trick?
My first trick was when I was 11 years old. It was with these little foam balls, and they disappear and they go from one hand to the other. And that was my first trick. It was brought over by this magician who went to our synagogue, my family synagogue, and he was showing us some magic tricks because my sister was really into doing tricks at the time, and then I sort of took it over from there.
And was it frustrating in the beginning to try to figure out all these moves, like sleight of hands and thinking processes until you figured it out and it's now natural like water to you?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of practice you have to do in magic, and sometimes you have to train your hands to do certain things. But it's almost like magic in and of itself. When you kind of wake up one day, you go back to practice it, and you can do it. But it definitely takes a lot of time. But I think it's worth it. It's very fun.
So how long did it take you to learn that trick? By the way, everyone, Abby Siegel was on an episode of Fool Us, and that link will be in the description of the YouTube video. So can you tell us a little bit about the trick that you did on Fool Us?
Yeah, of course. So that was something that I started my junior year of high school. I wanted to create one trick and then try to put it on Penn and Teller. So I worked a little every day on this trick, and it uses an Etch a Sketch, which is like the children's toy. And I had auditioned my senior year of high school and I didn't get in. And then during quarantine, I had a little more time. So I auditioned again and I ended up getting selected to go on the show with the trick that I had created in my junior year of high school. So yeah, it's a trick. It uses an Etch a Sketch and I draw on it the selected like toys that Penn and Teller chose from a deck of cards. And then, yeah, the first one I draw, I have a way of knowing what toy they selected. And then the second toy, like magically appears, an image of it appears on the Etch a Sketch.
Yeah, I
And
like
that was
that
the
trick.
routine.
I've seen some pretty wild things made on Etch a Sketch. We didn't watch it because when I was a kid, we had an Etch a Sketch, and I opened the thing up, and it's got silver particles in there that you can literally get on your hands, and your hands turn like into the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. Because I wanted to figure it out, I was inquisitive, so I wanted to figure out how it worked. So I had to take apart an Etch a Sketch. But those those were our smartphones back then. Hello, now you're frozen. Okay. Hello. Hi.
Sorry, I
Yep.
think the Wi-Fi is back in
Yeah,
much better.
that's going to be an issue. Yeah. Where were we? Yes, the Etch a Sketch. I took that apart when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, I tried to, but it didn't really work, and it was in my living room, and I don't think my parents wanted me to make a mess. But it
So,
is cool.
what did Penn and Teller say about that trick of yours? Because I watched the whole thing, but yeah, what did they think of
Well,
it?
I think they liked it. They figured the trick out because they're Penn and Teller. But yeah, I think they liked the trick because they had never seen magic done with an etch a sketch, and yeah, it was a really cool opportunity to just be a part of the show and
Yeah,
getting their feedback and talking to Allison Hannigan. It was a really cool experience.
Allison Hannigan. Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Willow. Oh yeah. Which how was she in real life?
She was super nice. Yeah,
Excellent.
she's great.
Was there a possibility of you talking to Penn and Teller as well, or was there social distancing there?
Yeah, it was very socially distanced. I heard in past seasons that, they always come up to you and you can talk with them, but I talked to them briefly before we shot the segment and then a little afterwards, but it wasn't too much with COVID. We had to keep our distance.
Yeah, that sounds
But
good.
they're really nice.
So tell us why you decided to go to the Czech for school. I'm sure there's many magic schools. There's places in Hollywood and all over the world that you could have gone. Is it because you're going there for the psychology major or what?
No, actually, I'm doing an art program here, and I knew I wanted to go somewhere in Europe, um, and it's been an amazing program. I've learned a lot about the art and about the history here in the Czech Republic. And I've gotten to do a little bit of magic. There's a little magic club and a magic store just a few minutes away from the apartment I'm staying in. So it's been really fun. And the magic community is really great here.
Yeah, and do these tricks share with you and show you how they do their tricks, or is it sort of like a secret thing?
Yeah, I think magicians are pretty open with each other, not with with laymen, but magicians will get in a room together and go over different sleights and magic tricks and share it with each other and come up with different ideas together. It's really fun.
Yeah, I was part of a church group called Christian Magicians, and we'd all get together once every Friday, I believe, and we would do the magic in front of everyone, and we'd show you how to do it. And so there's a special trick I do called the Blackpool effect, which is with cards, and
Mm,
uh, it would be where you would choose a card, and then you would write on the back of the card what the card is, but it's you were writing the name of the card on the wrong card, and then you go, and then you show them on the back. You wrote like two clubs, and there's two clubs, but that wasn't the two clubs. You wrote the two clubs. So that's interesting. And I have lot of magic tricks which I like to perform. What's your favorite trick?
My favorite trick,
Yeah.
um, probably I do this trick where I have somebody else sign a playing card, and I do this whole routine with it where I put it in the middle of the deck, and it keeps traveling on top. I do that a few times, and then at the end, it disappears completely, and it's paper clipped and folded up in my shoe.
The ambitious card. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's several versions. If you ever get a chance to look up Jay Sankey, and he's got like a whole thing called the ambitious card. He does it where you can actually have the cards encased in ice, and
Yes.
their card is inside the ice, and you can have the cards. You put nails in the cards and wrap wire around it, and you can still find the card. I think it's wild, and I actually bought that DVD and watched it, and I didn't know there were so many ways you could do this ambitious card, but controlling it to the top is one thing which is difficult sometimes. Sorry, I'm wearing my magician's hat,
Yeah. So
but
you're a magician.
yeah, but to tell you the truth, I was looking a little bit like who's that remind you of? Ozzy Osbourne, right?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Um, I tried to look as best I could as a magician, but my black hat sort of. I had a bow tie as well, but it broke. So tell us more about these nursing homes that you perform tricks.
Yeah, I would do that. like towards the start when I was just beginning in magic and sort of performing where I could, and it was really fun. I remember I did a lot of similar tricks like that I would do it. I just did like kids magic at the time, like really flashy things that, and pulling streamer out of my mouth, and they liked it. And then I also did some more adult tricks for them, and it was fun doing during nursing homes, and it felt good, and yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. So how you going to incorporate your psychology major and film studies minor in your love of visual arts and your magic? How are you going to do that? Like what would a psychology trick be like? What would a film studies trick be like?
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily like the tricks, it's more just the concept of
Hmm.
how you perceive something and misdirecting someone to look somewhere and going against expectations. It's all about like the psychology of human beings and how they're reacting to these tricks. It's like there's so little, and it always fascinates me how people you can kind of blow someone's mind like right there, but then they don't there's so many other curiosities in the world that they don't really think about. It's like your laundry machine. How does that run and work? And but then you're so amazed by this little thing with a rubber band. And so I think it's interesting to see how people react and why people react and how you can influence people to look one way or the other. So I think with psychology I kind of use it as the overall with my magic, just overall in a sense. And then with the visual art, I've always loved like incorporating visual art in the tricks, like with the Etch a Sketch, having my art be like the reveal at the end. And I'm doing something in prog right now where I'm coming up with this magic show that's based off of this really renowned Czech artist, collage artist, Jiří Collage. And I'm doing a magic show based off of his collage techniques. And at the end, my magic piece is I'm gonna create like a magic collage. So just always finding ways to incorporate the things I like to do in magic.
This magic group, what kind of like I'm not going to ask you to how they do these things, but what kind of tricks are they teaching you? Like other tricks that just blow your mind?
Definitely, yeah. There's so many like skillful magicians wherever you go. If you go to a magic store, there's just gonna be a lot of good magicians, and it's mostly card tricks. I think a lot of magicians like card tricks, and it's cool. I think some of the most like mind blowing things for me was just the way when I would go to the magic store and people would just say, "Oh, you don't have to do that. It's much simpler." I'd be like, "Oh, like why was I trying to do this complicated thing?" So I think that's been some of the most like when magicians are just like, "It's not that you can do something simpler." But I mostly learn like online through books, but it is fun to hang out with other magicians.
Yeah, this other magician I interviewed some time ago mentioned David Regal, and she liked this book because it had a lot of good tricks in it. Apparently, David Regal was around since the '60s, and
Yeah,
he's
he's
got
great.
pretty good magic. And apparently, that these tricks are I should really figure those ones out because there's some fantastic tricks out there. I wish I learned. And like I'm not much of an illusionist, but when you get older, did you want to do a lot of those illusions as well, or did you just want to stick with mainstream magic that you do?
Yeah, I would love to eventually try some stage things to perform for more people in one venue. But I do love the aspect of it being like close up, and I like parlor style magic and just being able to see like people's reactions and to be able to talk with people between tricks and more of like a yeah, like you're showing them something right up close and it's harder to explain than when you have the lights and everything in front of you. But I would love to try it eventually if I can.
So, what do you do if you kind of ruin a trick? What's your reaction? What do you do in the meantime? Do you have a backup trick?
Yeah, I think like I've been doing it for so long, so and I mess up a lot, but I always seem to find a way to get out of it. Or because a lot of people they've never seen a magician before, so they don't necessarily know what's going to happen or what you're going to do. So if I mess up, I'll just come up with a variation. For card tricks, it's a lot easier to do that. Like there's some times where you just like can't get out of it. I remember I was performing for a school So it was like 400 kids, and I was doing this trick where a bunch of coil comes out of my mouth, and it just got stuck in my mouth, and I don't know, it just wouldn't release. So I just kind of took it out and did a different trick, and you kind of get over it, and people don't really remember, I guess, overall. But yeah,
Well,
you can definitely mess up.
do you have a repertoire of tricks that you perform all the time? So when you go do a show, these are the tricks that you do. You have an opener, you have a closer, you have a card trick, you have like do you, I know you said I think you said you don't do any mentalism.
Yeah, I do. Like, I have like a set list that I do
Mm.
everywhere kind of thing, but it depends on the venue. So if it's like parlor style, that I usually change about, and also timing is different. So if I have like a 15-minute set, and I also like to customize it to whatever I'm doing. Like at my school, I always like to relate it to Bates in some way to make it kind of funny and relate to them. And then my close-up stuff pretty much has stayed the same with different variations. Like during quarantine, I was changing things up a lot, which was nice. I had the time to do that, but it stays pretty much fixed just so I can show it to as many people as I can. And yeah, but I'm always changing the bigger shows. But close up, I'll do the same thing, and I don't really get tired of it, which is good.
Was there a Facebook Live or a Zoom course or something that you literally like? Did you perform like during the pandemic? You had to do everything online. Were there a couple of Facebook Live shows you did, or Zoom shows, or how did that work out for you?
Yeah, it was a really great opportunity to perform online. I did some stuff with the Boston Magic Lab, which is an open mic kind of lab where magicians test out material that might go right or wrong. And that was super fun. And I did some stuff with the Toronto Magic Company. Um, and
Nice.
then, yeah, in Toronto.
Yeah,
And
from
I
Toronto.
did,
Yeah, because
yeah,
we have a magic shop in Toronto, and
yeah, that's great.
the only thing
Yeah,
you can't do, the only thing you can't do there is buy an assistant. You have to find one yourself.
yeah. or work, or work independently.
Yeah, not very many magicians like assistants, but I and she just oh, and Leah Kyle as well. She's the one on that did the quick change.
Mm-hmm.
Her boyfriend was a magician, and she tried to do the stuff that he did, but she said that it wasn't her. And then there's a video of her throwing the cards up in the air, and now she does this amazing quick change. So there's a lot of different magic acts, and then you have Stephen Brundage who does the Rubik's cube trick in the bag like this, and he takes it out, and it's completely done. Are there some tricks he will not perform?
Yeah, definitely. I think like now I feel like I used to just sort of perform everything, but now I'm like, okay, there has to be intention in why you're doing what you're doing, I think. And yeah, so there's definitely I don't have one on the top of my head that I wouldn't do, but if it fits my style, if I see something, but I don't like learn everything now. I just kind of learn what I think will be really useful for like what I want to do. So
Yeah, because when I saw you do the etch a sketch trick, then you shook it, and then the image was still on there. Like, how is that possible?
yeah, sometimes when you draw an etch a sketch and you leave it there for like a day or two, it'll have like leftover pigment. So you can still sort of see the remaining drawing of it on the video.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Have you ever heard of the Magic Circle? It's a Circle's members club for amateur, semi-pro, and professional magicians, and there's currently 1,500 members, and they're all based in Euston, London. But
Hmm.
to gain a membership, you must do an interview and audition to show you of high standard. Like, what does that mean to you, high standard? Are you high standard?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like the Magic Castle is similar too. You kind of have you have to know somebody or have private access to it. But yeah, I used to be into all that, finding out ways to get into it. But they're really cool. I think I'm going to London in a few weeks. Maybe I'll do a little research before and
Yeah.
see
But
check
when
it
they
out.
say that you have to be of high standard, like, what the heck does that mean? Like
I
high
think it
standard?
means you need to like professional qualify to like
Oh,
really serious about it, not just amateur.
You do that card trick where you take the signature card and you hide it. Ugh, that's so low class. I can make that card disappear before your eyes and have the signature float in the air. Like when I
Well, there's
see
like
that,
there's
when I
a
see
million
that,
musicians in that club doing that trick, I bet.
when I see high standard, I mean, like that's what if I show them a trick they've never seen before, which I've shown to lots of people, and they consider it to be the best trick, and you're better than Deborah Copperfield. Not that I am. And then I perform it in front of these people, and they're like, "Oh, that's not a high standard trick. I can do that trick with my eyes closed." No, but so who do you think is the best magician in the world? Who's your favorite? Who's the one that you kind of follow? And would it be someone like David Regal or Jay Sankey or Deborah Copperfield or
Yeah, my favorite magician is Tommy Wonder, and he's why am I spacing? I think he's based in. Oh, he was based in. I think he was Swedish, I
oh
believe, and I think so. I haven't like been reading the books in a little bit this semester, but yeah, and he's my favorite magician just with the way um, he thinks about magic and performs his magic and really cares about crafting it and making the scripts and always improving and getting feedback from other people. And he was an amazing magician. And he's passed, but he did a lot of like magic performances for like magic clubs, and he did a lot of lecturing. And yeah, I think if you ask a lot of magicians, Tommy Wonder will be their favorite.
wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that Jay Sankey, I think. Then there's Illusionist, which has a lot of stuff on there too. Do you
Mm-hmm.
purchase a lot of your tricks, or do you make them yourself?
I used to buy a lot of magic on like Illusionist and Theory 11 and a little
311,
Penguin.
I love that place. Yes.
Mm-hmm. But I like to now like just buy material and create my own stuff and yeah, and
You ever sold?
read and get like a lot of lecture. I enjoy watching the lectures from other magicians that I'm interested in and studying off of that. But I don't really buy like tricks anymore because there's so
Yeah.
many.
Well, where do you find yourself 10, 15 years from now? In the film studies? Do you find yourself a psychology professor or something, or working as a mainstream magician? Ladies and gentlemen, Abby Segal.
That's a good question. I don't know. 15 years is a long time.
I know I
But
shouldn't really. Yeah,
I
5
know
years.
I'm gonna be in like halfway in
5
like a
years.
few months. 5 years, I think I'll still be trying to make it with magic, doing some traveling with it. I would love to do out of school. And this summer I'm working at the Chicago Magic Lounge.
Mm.
Um, and I think, yeah, and I'm also into design and art too. So I don't know exactly. Maybe go to grad school, but I think starting with magic, and if I can do it always the way I want to do it, then I would be very happy.
You ever done the disappearing pen?
Yeah.
That's that whole disappearing thing and doing it without sleeves, so people can say you had that in
hmm
your sleeves. The way you do it, it makes it like you have a pen and then suddenly it disappears in front of people. And I'm like, wow, how do you do that trick? And I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
You have to do it natural. It has to be like a natural form because there's
Mhm.
sometimes I remember when I was a kid, my classmate and I, like in those days, you could buy magic kits for kids, like, and we performed in front of other children at the library. And he used that magic trick, and I used the ones that I created myself. And I worked on it. Yeah, as a kid, I made my own magic, and I actually performed it in front of people. But the only thing is that here's a word of advice. You probably know this: only perform the trick once, and never perform it again in front of the same people. Because I learned that
Definitely.
because they figured out how I did it. Because I did it 3 times in front of them. Don't do that.
It's
uh,
it gets tempting though when you have the attention and then they bring more friends. It's like, oh, do that same one, and you don't have any other like when you're young and you don't have any other tricks. You
yeah.
do the
How
same
about your
one.
family? Like you have siblings who take an interest in magic. Do you perform for them? Perform for your family?
Definitely, yeah. They were like my guinea pigs all growing up. And yeah, I got started because my sister was into doing card tricks, and her
Wow.
Sunday school teacher was like, "Oh, you should be my magician's assistant." So when he came over, she kind of lost interest, and then I started assisting him after that.
Oh yeah, it's easy to lose interest because I know that there's one card trick I'm just trying to learn. It's taking me so long though. It's called the card through window. You ever seen that one?
Yeah, it's great.
There's a gentleman magician. His name's Daniel Garcia, and he created a trick called Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the surgical card through window. That you would choose a card, and then you go on the other side of the window, and you would get them to take the cards and spread it out, and then you go like this, and then on the other side, you're pulling their chosen card through the window.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do it and the way you present it, it's amazing. But when he shows you how to do it, there's some moves and stuff that you have to learn, and it's like, oh, that's difficult. And with the cards, like bicycle cards, you get so kind of slippery and sloppy that you open up a package and all the cards go all over the place. I'm like, how do you handle these things? Because you're like, forget it, you know.
Oh, you have to break them in. There's so many videos too online if to properly break in a deck of cards so they're not as slippery. But yeah, so I recommend that. But yeah, it's totally there can be 52 card pickup.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you know how to do the and
Card
then
spring, yes.
the card springs? Yeah.
Yeah. I had my playing cards next to me, but I had to move with the connection here, but
Oh, I'd like to see how you do that. Is there any way that you can go and get them?
yeah, I can get them. All right, I'm back.
Okay,
So,
good.
a card spring.
That's awesome. How long did it take you to learn that?
I don't know, maybe probably like half a month. I mean, half a year, I would say. But I learned a bunch of the card stuff when I was younger, and it took a really long time for it to finally like get it down. And then with practice, you can make it bigger. And
Yeah, I should learn how to do those card springs because every time I do it, just all over the place.
explode.
Um,
Yeah.
I bought the DVD by Ekaterina, and she shows you how to do a lot of the card springs and how to do amazing ones, which just it's not just like this what you just did, but like amazing ones where she creates like houses out of cards and
Yeah, she's great.
it's incredible. And if you follow it, you should actually check out Ekat. She calls herself Ekat, and she's great.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
I followed her since I was like 10 or when
yeah,
I first got school.
she's great. And but I used to watch David Copperfield, and he made the Statue of Liberty disappear, and then Jay Sankey made the CN Tower disappear, and then I'm like, how do you do it? And people out there saying, how did you do it? Where's that? And then he shows you how he did it. I think it was to the that YouTube series called The Unknown Magician, who's
The
dressed up.
Masked Magician.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and he shows you how to do all these tricks, which I don't think is fair because we magicians should keep our secrets.
Definitely. Yes, of course.
That's what you do. But so what about tell us more about your film studies? What's that about? What do you want to do with that?
Yeah, well, it's rhetoric and film studies, so it's like a lot of persuasive writing pieces and sort of dissecting the way you view something. So it's kind of like a lens to viewing videos and movies and TV shows and all that, and then writing about things and how to write persuasively. And that definitely has come in handy when I script my magic, and because you always want to think about your audience and how you're going to make them feel and what you want them to get out of it. And so I use it for magic, and it's just a really interesting minor, and I'm glad I'm doing it.
You have to take film studies to learn how to script the magic performance. You can't just do it by ear. You can't just
No,
take a.
oh yeah, well, it just helps. Like I don't script everything, but I like to script like when I'm performing for a bigger venue, just to know what I'm gonna say and to have different things. Like I love coming up with ways, like things I think my audiences are going to say, my volunteers, and then having ideas on how to respond like quickly. And so, yeah.
What's your closer?
What changes a lot? I would say I don't really have like a concrete closer that I use for everything. Um, I like cups and balls, I think is a good closer. And some object or thing or playing card or dollar bill like ends up in a location maybe that someone's been holding the whole time in like an envelope, or like a prediction trick is always nice to end with, but it changes on the venue. And yeah.
If somebody came up to you and said, "I want to learn how to be a magician," what is the first advice you give them?
Well, I would say I do teach some magic lessons, like private lessons in libraries and recreational programs in the summer. And that's a great way to just learn a few tricks. And then if people are interested, um, then I would definitely recommend, honestly, like I usually say, you can start with like crumbling up little napkins and learning the sponge ball routines. That was the first thing I learned. I think sponge balls are a great way to learn like beginner sleight of hand, and you can get good at them pretty quick. And then I started on YouTube, and there's a lot you can learn from YouTube. And then once I think you've moved on and you're still really interested in it, then the books and magic websites and seeking out like a community of magicians, which is hard to find, these days. And a lot of shops are closed down, unfortunately. But I think if you're really passionate about it, you'll find resources to learn. And yeah.
What is the first trick you would teach them?
Um, Usually I teach them, like at the libraries, it's the vanishing cup trick where it smashes on the table. Um,
That's a good one.
yeah, and like the hot rod, like learning the paddle move, and sometimes like making a napkin or a coin disappear, and a simpler cups and balls version. So lots of variety.
And there's that trick where someone says, "Watch the paper towel," and they go like this, and they say one, two, and they throw it behind them, but
Hmm.
people don't see that. It's like boom, it's gone. It's like, where'd it go?
Yeah, it's very funny.
That's one of the tricks that I've learned. And so, what trick are you working on now?
What I'm working on now, I'm doing the magic show, the based off of the Czech artist Jiří Collage, and I'm getting ready to have some tricks lined up for the Chicago Magic Lounge this summer. And that's pretty much it. I'm trying to focus on those two things for now. And so at the Chicago Magic Lounge, I'm doing a lot of close-up stuff, like table hopping, before like the main show starts. So I have a list of tricks that I'm gonna try out. A lot of like original material that I haven't really like had the opportunity to do, because a lot of them I came up with during quarantine or solidified them during quarantine. So I'm ready to start practicing them and get better at them for people.
Like I was sitting down one summer drinking coffee, and then this young guy walks around. He's a magician, and he was part of the which has like street magicians and performers. And he started doing all these card tricks, and I was sitting there. I know how that's done. I know how that's done. I know how that's done. And I was tempted to take out a deck of cards and do it. And then suddenly I was on the bus, and he showed up, and he took the cards, and it had the card, and he went, and it's another card. Like I know how to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And he showed me how that was done. And then we started doing card tricks in front of each other. So you took the
Oh,
card, but you took the card, but
mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's interesting. Is there any other hobbies you like to do? Is it all magic? Like when you're doing gardening, do you make the hoe disappear or something?
No, yeah, I magic's definitely my biggest passion, I would say, but I'm also really into visual art. And like this semester I've gotten really into collage work, and I'm always trying new different art techniques. Like I was really into urban sketching this summer and kind of just drawing what I could see in watercolor. And I play tennis. In high school I played year round, and that was always a big part of my life.
I play
And
tennis too, and I've been playing for years, and I can make the tennis ball disappear.
oh yeah. Over the fence.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and in college, I am on the ultimate frisbee team, which is fun, and I like to hang out with my friends. And I do some jobs. I work in the costume shop at Bates, and I'm like a coordinator for some of the art classes there, the art lessons. And that's pretty much it. I like to ski in the winter with my family,
But
and
you still do magic no matter what you do. Even if you're skiing in the snow, you take a snowball and make it disappear. Because
well, yeah, maybe I'll always bring a deck of cards with me when I'm traveling and stuff and practicing.
and how many tricks do you know with the deck of cards? Because there's like 100 or more.
There's a lot. I think I've learned hundreds of tricks. Now I do about like 7 that I'll just do if somebody asks me to do a card trick or something.
And what about gimmicks? Do you have gimmicks, or do you just prefer not to use them?
I like to make them sometimes. I think they can be really helpful, but I always combine it with sleight of hand. I think if you use both, it's a really powerful tool, but I don't just rely on gimmicks.
No. You ever heard of the invisible thread? It feels like spider web. It's sort of like a sticky kind, and how to make the
Mhm.
card floats and everything. I'm like, I saw it once. Remember talking to you about that Ukrainian magician named Vladimir the Great, and he made
Mhm.
a table rise, and I'm like, that's not an invisible thread. That's not strong enough to hold that table up. And I could never understand how he did to make the table rise, and he was following it through like it was rising, and it's amazing some of the things that people can do. What do you think of misdirection? How does it work for you?
Yeah, it's a very valuable tool. I mean, usually when I'm trying to misdirect someone, I'll there's different techniques you can use to misdirect people. One of them's like you can look into their eyes or say their name. Um, but it's also kind of like I'm always observing the audience too to see, who's paying extra attention and who I might need to be extra careful of if they're going to catch me. You can just sort of sense that people are on, you can always sense if someone's on to something. And so I try to just be observant in my surroundings and who I think needs the misdirection the most, I guess.
Why did you apply to perform on Fool Us? Why didn't you perform on AGT or BGT or something like that? Why Fool Us?
Well, I thought, it was like a showcase of magicians, so I liked that. And I'd come up with this one trick with the Etch a Sketch that I thought was creative enough to get on the show. I thought it was more suitable for that show, and I liked how it showcased like a lot of original work from magicians, and it was more like a creating based show. And yeah,
Did you have to perform it in front of the people first? Like, I
yeah,
mean,
I
in front of a group of people associated with the show before they said, "Okay, you're good, you can go on," or did they, like, do they have people that actually show up and then they have to perform something like a trick, and if it's not good enough, they send them home? Is that how it works?
no, you send in like an audition video,
Hmm.
and if it gets chosen, then you workshop it with the producer. So like I would be doing Zoom practice sessions with them like every week, once a week or something. And then there's a magic consultant. And then if something's not working, because they know everything, they know it's good for TV, they know it's going to work, so they change your script a little bit and they try to get it down to the time that you have to record for it. Um, and then also like I had auditioned with a trick, but we ended up going with the trick that I auditioned with like my junior year. So it's like tweaking things, like what works better for TV. But once you get selected for the show, then it's just a matter of practicing and getting it down with them. So you're not
Are,
going to
ma-
be sent home after you fly out. Yeah, there's no like you go there to audition.
are magic consultants magicians themselves
Mhm.
and established as well?
Mhm. Definitely.
That's
Yeah, Mike
interesting.
Close is the consultant for Penn and Teller.
But he's an actual magician as well,
Yeah, he was full time, and yeah, he's great.
and he liked your trick with the etch a sketch.
Yeah, Yep, I had submitted a different one before, but it was a really small trick. It used like a matchbox and business cards, and it was gonna be hard to see, so we ended up going with the Etch Sketch one.
Um, yeah. So that's interesting. So these members that you know, are you the youngest in that group?
Yeah, I would say I have a lot of like mentors and people I consult with if I need help. Like I had some support doing Flawless, which was really great. Like a lot of getting feedback and stuff. And then I have a friend who's my age, but I don't have too many. Like my circle of magicians is very small, um, but I've met a lot in my lifetime. But the people
You
I connect with and
you
trust.
met a lot of people your age who are magicians as well, and then you just kind of perform with them, or
A little bit, not as much. Like growing up, I always really wanted magic friends, but I didn't have. I had like two who were my age, and I don't think they do magic anymore. But yeah, so currently I only have one magic friend who's my age, and then the rest are older. But it's also with COVID too. I haven't been going to magic stores and that kind of thing to meet people. But so after I get back to the States, I'll definitely go
yeah,
to some magic conventions and all that.
yeah. I'm actually disappointed that your sister stopped because she lost interest. And yet, when you started taking it up and all these wonderful tricks you knew how to do, I'm surprised she didn't say, "Well, that's interesting. How do you do that? I might have a more of
Mhm.
an interest in going back into magic." But she didn't say that, did she?
She didn't. I'll ask her that why seeing me do it didn't want her to
Yeah.
rekindle her love for it.
So there's a daytime show called Matt King, and they have very funny comedy magicians. Do you know any magicians who use comedy in their act?
Definitely, yeah. I like to use comedy in my own as well. I think it always kind of adds to it, and yeah, I think you sort of need to humorize it in a sense because you're trying to convince people you have magical powers. I think there comes, I think sometimes when it's lighthearted, it's nice. But I do know a lot of comedy magicians, and they're really fun to watch.
I've seen a lot of Penn and Teller magic, and some of it doesn't impress me. Okay, what magic trick are you trying to work to make it so you can incorporate it in your show? Is there a certain magic trick that you're trying to learn right now?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of magic tricks along the way that I there's always something wrong with it, and I'll wait a really long time until I show it to someone because I always just think there needs to be something more to it. So I'm like constantly building and working, trying to improve these tricks before I've even shown people it. I've shown other magicians, but so there's a lot of things still in the process, and I'm hoping when I go to Chicago, there's going to be a lot of magicians I'm working with. So I'm super excited for the opportunity to work with them and jam with them after the
Wow.
shows.
Has anybody wanted to learn how to do that etch a sketch trick?
Yes, after the show, I did have some people asking how it was done, and I did a few calls with some people who had similar ideas, and so yeah, it was cool.
So, what do you think of this? So, part of the fun with magic is a mystery, and if you knew how the trick was done, you could still enjoy it on a different level.
Hmm.
Many magicians enjoy to watch magic, but they're looking for technique, presentation, and originality. If you want to enjoy magic in its purest form, it's best not to ask them how it's done. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's different ways to watch magic. You have like the skeptic who wants to figure it out, and it can be annoying. It can definitely be a challenge for the magician, but if that's the way they want to try to perceive it, then I think you can't tell people how to react. But I do love when you just get people who want to see it for the magic because it is an art form. And at least in my magic, I'm not trying to convince anyone that I have real powers, but it's for the enjoyment and for that feeling of sort of astonishment and being like, oh, I don't know how that's done. And you're seeing something that is seemingly like it appears impossible, but there's a way. But so I think you can kind of reflect everyday life too. Maybe things that seem impossible you can actually do after all. And it's just it's an art form, and I like when people appreciate it for what it is. But if you want to try to figure it out, but it's not necessarily about how the tricks are done. It's about how they make you feel and the messages that they're trying to share.
Well, who is the most famous magician of all time?
I would say David Copperfield, definitely.
That's good that you would say that, but the first one they mention is Harry Houdini because he's famous for his escapology. Have you seen the movie The Prestige?
Yes, I have
Yeah.
seen that.
You'd see a lot of magic movies. Did you actually, when you had a magic show, do you look and see how everything is done? Do you take everything apart? And when they show a trick or they do a trick, do you know how it's done? Or do you want to learn how it's done? Are you sort of like the thinker?
Yeah, like when I go to see a show, I like to just watch it kind of for what it is, and then like if there's tricks that I do, I'm gonna know how they're done, but I look for like how they're doing it, how they're presenting it. If it's like it was written in the instructions, and I don't like it as much, but if they've put a twist on it and made it personal to them. So yeah, I like watching it with a blank slate, and then not there are some tricks where I really want to know how they're done, but for the most part, I like to just enjoy seeing the new magician and seeing what they
Yeah.
do.
Well, there was this one magician I knew. There was a trick I really, not don't say desperately, but there's a trick I really wanted to learn. And I said, "Can I learn this trick?" Yeah, I'll show it how it's done. You can do it within an hour. It's $200 just to
Yeah.
teach me that one trick. $200. Okay, I don't think I'm desperate enough.
No, I think he was ripping you off.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was a good trick, though. I'd love to learn how it's done. And people think there aren't very many female magicians, apart from you. And then I don't know if you're familiar with Amanda Nepo.
hmm
And then there's Josephine Lee and there's Leah Kyle. Did you know there are 70 female magicians that are members of the Magic Circle?
Yes, I think they only started accepting females like pretty recently. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely a problem. I'm impressed you've named a few female magicians, and I think there's coming to be a lot more female magicians, but it's interesting why there aren't that many. Like growing up, I always knew it was something like, oh, there's not a lot of female magicians. I always knew it was something that kind of made me different and stand out, but it never like bothered me, and I never really started to question it until quarantine. I was like, oh, I've never met a female magician. So I met my first few like online. I was introduced to some, which was really great, and I don't know why I hadn't like seek them out before. I just didn't really know where they were. And I met my first Alba. She's in Argentina, so she's my first female magician I met. And I think I had met, like I knew of them, but I didn't ever really connect with them, which I should have done growing up. But yeah, there definitely needs to be more female magicians. And I'm teaching. I have some private lessons that I teach to women and girls trying to get into magic. And
Cool.
yeah, I think people should start doing magic. I mean, it's a rare thing in general. Not a lot of people do magic. It's a pretty small circle, but there definitely needs to be more diversity within the art form.
And yeah, a lot of these tricks that they both do from each male and female is it's still you don't know you're mesmerized because how do they do them, and it takes hours and hours of work. Do you consider I guess that's what you're going to be doing probably in the next 5 to 10 years is you're going to be forming all these different illusions and big. Do you use the flash paper in a lot of the lighters and
Yeah,
what
I've played around with it.
you
A
know what?
lot of venues don't allow fire though, so
Yeah, but those are some of the fun
it
magic
is fun.
tricks. It is fun. Do you charge to perform shows?
Yep, I do. Yeah, for birthday parties and special occasions, I'll get hired to do shows and I'll
Yeah,
charge for them.
yeah. Um, I had a friend who she was a clown, but she's a magician, so she was a magic clown.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Um, with all that makeup on and then the clown suit and everything, and being able to do this magic is sort of distracting when you think of it.
No, I don't think I want to be a clown,
No,
but
Before you even went out and did your own magic shows, did you have to consult other magicians to find out how much they charge and how they charge, or did you just
A
say,
little bit.
yeah?
Yeah, definitely a little. Like my main mentor, I didn't ask what he charged, but I asked, what I should charge. And at the magic store, it was always like a conversation, like if you're charging too little, it's not good for the art form. But then again, like you don't want to charge too much because like with my age too, so I gradually sort of changed the rate of it.
Do people surprise how old you are when you perform for them, or do they know ahead of time? Hey, I'm like you just say, oh, we need you here, Abby, to perform magic, but they don't ask you how old you are, and then you show up.
Yeah, that used to happen when I was younger. Like
Well, all the questions I
yes,
had here.
about
Do you know? Yeah, sorry, go ahead. It will can
yeah.
out.
So I think yeah about me performing when I was younger. I used to yeah when I would talk to the clients on the phone, I would hang up. And my mom was like, "Oh, did you tell them that you're 14?" And then I would call them back and be like, "Oh, by the way, I'm 14." So usually people would know coming in, but there are definitely a few times like the audiences don't really know. So I guess they would be surprised to
Then
see who
Alan
was
Hudson is
performing.
another professional magician, but he's based in UK, and he's a member of
Mhm.
the Magic Circle, and he's a regular performer at the Magic Castle in Hollywood. Do you have any desires to go and visit the Magic Castle at some point?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's always been a dream of mine to perform there. It's a great venue for magic, and it's like one of the only performing spaces where it's just for the magic, and it's a whole venue just for it. So it's a great place, and I would love to visit one day.
What about your parents? Do they like it that you're a magician, or they just kind of go ahead, honey, perform that trick, make that tennis ball disappear?
Yeah, they've always been so supportive,
That's
like
good.
the whole way, and always wanted me to go after it if I was really into it. And my mom would take me to all my shows. My dad took me to a lot too, and helped me get to where I am. And she would book a lot of shows for me too. And she worked in the school system, so I always had a bunch of shows lined up through her. So they've always supported me, everyone in my family. So it's been great.
Yeah. So, but what did they say when you said that you're going to Czech Republic to school? Did they complain about that, or did they say, "Yeah, go ahead, yes, honey, go"?
Yeah, of course. Like they always wanted me to study abroad for a semester, and they actually just visited me last week, which was nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Like go from the States to the Czech. Wow. I'm gonna check to see later after this who the famous magicians are in Magic Circle. I'd be interested in knowing who the names are because
Mhm.
a few of them I'm particularly interested in wondering if they're part of it or not. Um, I should really get back into magic. I know I've kind of put it aside because there are people better than me, and there's a few tricks that I wanted to learn. I just couldn't do them. I just couldn't do them properly. But
Never too late to start learning and to get better at them.
yeah, and but I'm more like a tenor, like I'm a singer, and I do a lot of opera and a lot of different types of music. And magic was just something that I do on the side. I could be a singing magician, maybe.
There you go.
Wanted to ask you about music. So you don't like incorporating music in your performances. You like to have everything just done silently and misdirections because you think music is distracting.
No, I think music can really add to a performance. I usually talk when I do it, but I'll do like pre-recorded videos, and I always like to incorporate music. And yeah, I would love to come up with like a silent piece one day. I have a lot of ideas for them to do it to music. And
That is amazing. We really appreciate that you came onto our show.
oh, thanks for having me, Chris.
Thank you, Abby. I really appreciate this, Abby, for you showing it, coming on and talking with us today. And we hope we will invite you back, and I wish you great success in your magic, and hope you can come up with some really fantastic ones and make people say, "Whoa, that blew me away." I really
Thank you. I
appreciate
appreciate it.
you're very yeah. Thank you very much, and let's wait. We're going to end this stream and Goodbye, Abby.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Chris. Thank you.